Hey guys, so I just made a short on specificity like 2 days ago, and I felt the need to make that because this is another one of the things that I've seen people giving other people advice about, where it seems that they don't really understand from personal experience what exactly they're doing with why being specific is important, and what exactly that means. In the video, I used an apple as an example. If you want an apple, that's a specific thing. That's a specific thing. That is not a vague thing. That is not an item. That is not, a manifestation. It's not general. It's a specific thing. It's an apple. And there are a lot of ways to modify the specific apple into being even more specific. It could be a Macintosh. It could be a Fuji. It could be a Honeycrisp. It could be a type. It could be large, small. It could have bruises or not have bruises. Maybe there's some people that like bruises. It could be red, green, or any of the other colors. There's a lot of details you could put on that apple to make it even more specific. But if none of those things matter to you, then you absolutely should not tack them on. It makes no sense to do that. Because the whole point of being specific is that knowing what you specifically want creates a certain feeling in you. And you'll only know what that means by doing it yourself. These are a lot of things that everybody's trying to put into, English or language. And it's very difficult to describe a feeling in words accurately in a way that can be conveyed to another person so they can feel the same thing. The best thing you can really do is sort of take the instruction, do it yourself, and then interpret what it is. So when you know what you want as specifically as you can without making it more detailed than it needs to be, that is an extremely clear feeling with no resistance. And again, that's another word that's used in the manifestation community or whatever, the LOA community, that people scoff at or don't understand or whatever, or they take it to mean something it doesn't mean. It's just like, if you know exactly what you want, there's no static. If it's not specific enough, there's static. If it's too specific, there's a different kind of static, but it's not clear. It's not, it's the thing you want is to have that feeling of nothing in your way. God, this is so hard to put into words. It's a feeling of just no interfering thoughts. When you have your desire tuned perfectly, it's a very peaceful, clear feeling about it. And so this is kind of tricky. I have always done this with the things I'm trying to get. If it's something that I don't just automatically kind of feel like there's a way to get, and I know exactly how to get it, I don't screw around with trying to apply any of this stuff to something I already can see how to get and know how to get. It's only when a feeling of, I don't want to do that, or I don't know how to get that, or I'm scared of that, or something like, it's only when that comes up that I start to mentally examine it and, try to bring it about without directly involving myself necessarily. So I just get things that I can get, I have manifested a lot of money. I just go buy things that I can buy. I don't add in some step of getting something for free just for the hell of it. I don't really do that. But so for things that I'm not sure what it feels like to have that, or, if I don't know what it feels like to have something or be something, that for me can generate a feeling of, apprehension about it. I try to be really careful. I've lived long enough. I'm in my 40s. I've lived long enough now to know that a lot of times you think you want something, you get it, and there's a lot of unintended side consequences or side effects on your life that you don't necessarily want, that you then have to deal with. And so if I'm going to intentionally draw something into my life, I'm careful about it at this point. That's not to say you need to be that way. I didn't used to be that way. I've gotten this way through experience and just sort of, a deeper understanding of myself and how I want my life to be. So that's why I am where I am now. But if you want to manifest something, like, for example, if you want a romantic relationship, I think it makes sense, first of all, to feel how you want to determine how you want to feel about that relationship and hone that down to everything that needs to be there and nothing that doesn't. This is just my personal opinion and advice. Figure out what you need to be in a relationship, what elements you need to be there, and make a big list of everything that you need and want, and then go through one by one. This is what I would do. Go through one by one and start saying, do I really need this? Is this really a detail that needs to be in this manifestation? Does this, is this something that if I got everything else on the list, that this would still matter? If not, cross it off. Keep going. Do it with all of it. If this is something that everything else was there, would this matter? That's how you know what you need. And I promise there is no danger in doing this. People will be like, no, BS details. You write a list with 400 things on it for what you want in your perfect man. Maybe that works for some people. I don't know. I hear most of the people I hear saying stuff like that are quite young. That's not what I would do. When you whittle down your desire to what it needs to be for you, when you get it down to nothing superfluous, what tends to happen is that then you get everything you need, and all of the other things that come with it are just, it fulfills you beyond what you could have imagined. That tends to be what happens when you get out of the way. I don't know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time convincing people of that, because a lot of people are really convinced that they know they need all these detailed things and everything. And that's cool. They'll live their lives and figure it out. And maybe this isn't the right advice for them. And maybe I'm wrong about that for them. For me, I know how I have actually gotten everything. I'm not speculating here. And I don't have any regrets. So that's what I'm talking about. I figure out what is the absolute heart of what I want. And then that is a very clear feeling, So it's got to be monogamous. The person has to be kind to me. It has to be a person with integrity. I'm not willing to compromise on that at all. No, not willing to be with somebody who is great, but who, when it comes down to it, will screw somebody over to get something. These kinds of things. Integrity, honesty, monogamy, kindness. This has to be a really fun relationship for me. I know I can't compromise on that. What I want from my relationship is fun. What I want is, other things that you can't get just from your friends. There's got to be a good physical connection, a good intimacy there, because that's one of the things that you, if you're monogamous, can only do with your partner. So, whittling it down to this has to be there. That creates a very specific feeling about what a secure, good, fulfilling relationship feels like. When you go down this list, if you have in there, and he's got to have a PhD. He's got, really? So if you're in this great relationship, but the guy doesn't have a PhD, then that's just it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think if you get really honest with yourself about what you need, if you need a PhD and you know that, then that'll be in your list. But it creates a very specific feeling and not a lot of static, not a lot of complicating factors that then make you feel like, is this really, am I really going to get this? Is this really exist? It's just that's what I've done is just get really clear, really simple. Get it down to brass tacks. TACKS, by the way, not TAX. That's one that drives me crazy. Get it down to brass tacks. Get it down to the bare bones and get that feeling going. So that I think is what helps generate the feeling of something that you've never actually had, which leads me to my next point. Well, one of the issues with feeling is a secret, I think, for a lot of people is that you simply just do not know what it feels like to have the things that you want, to be the person you want. And so it's almost like when you think about it, or when you try to generate the feeling of the thing you want, it's just sort of a sense of excitement or anxiety kind of all wrapped up together. It's just, you don't actually get the calm, sort of objective feeling, if that's even a thing, if a feeling can be objective, but you don't sort of get like a snapshot of how you would feel on a typical day of being the person who has what you want. And so my solution to that, and how I have always done things, is just do it step by step. And in the last video I made, I was talking about generating this sense of I can do it, and doing all of this with certainty. If you combine these two things, you will absolutely succeed. You will absolutely succeed. If you just take Shlomo Friedman, I'm going to link to his channel. He calls it the salami method, or he referred to it as a salami or something. I just like that. You slice it really thin. You add a little thin layer onto what you already know. So you take where you are and what is the next step that is just slightly outside of where you are, and what would that feel like? Because you're going to be able to connect if you're a person who is consistently overdrawing your bank account constantly. I was one of those people, so this is a good example for me. If you're somebody who is just constantly overdrawing your bank account, that is like a problem that is ever present in your life. You overdraw your bank account 5 times a year. You're paying $500 a year in overdraft fees, and you obviously can't really afford to be doing that. Connect to what it would feel like to not have that happen. I never overdraw my bank account. What does that feel like? It would be the absence of all those feelings that you get when you overdraw your bank account over and over again, or hopelessness, or whatever, anger. What would that feel like? Connect to that, and that's going to be a lot easier for you than connecting to what it would feel like to be a multimillionaire. Now, the feelings that you feel when your bank account are never overdrawn will definitely be included in how you feel as a multimillionaire, but it's overcomplicating it. You don't need to feel how you're going to feel as a multimillionaire to stop overdrawing your bank account. And that's something that is just imminently attainable. I'm going to tell you how you stop overdrawing your bank account. I'm just going to give you the real world way. You sacrifice whatever the hell it is you're spending your money on for like a few months, and save up a few $100s that you never, ever, ever touch. And you use that as an overdraft protection. And then you never overdraw your account again. You have it. You can do it. You're managing to stay at 0. I promise you can manage to stay at 500. You just got to get $500 somehow. Manifesting $500 is easy, but if you can't figure out a way to manifest it, just stop spending money on something for a little while. That's it. And stop spending money make your goal $500. I don't care what I have to do to get this. I don't care if I have to not eat much for the next month. Probably stand to lose a little weight anyway. Whatever you have to do. It's not difficult to raise yourself from constantly at 0 to constantly at 500. And that's the only difference between all those fees being racked up. And the only reason I'm using this example and telling you this is because, how far away you are from life being so much better, it's right there. It just seems far away. It's right there. It's not even that hard, really. For a lot of the things you want, it is just like, it is a minor behavioral change away. It is a minor opportunity away. It's like, it's something that only is being prevented from happening by your mentality about the thing, which influences your behavior about the thing. So rather than going for this huge thing, which is what everybody advises you to do, this is so dumb. It really irritates me sometimes, Rather than going for this monstrous thing, that is not specific. That is not a specific goal for you. Which isn't to say you shouldn't imagine yourself that way or try to feel that way or, start to sort of take that on or become certain that that's where you're going to end up or any of that. When it comes to actually making stuff happen right now, it's really, really easy to just approach the next step with a sense of certainty and do this step by step. It's going to happen probably step by step anyway. So that's the easiest thing to do. And that's what I've always done with everything, really. If I wanted to be in the right relationship, whatever I thought that was, I determined, what's the next step I have to take to get that. So, for example, this is getting really long, but I'll give you another example from my personal life. One that didn't work out, one that made me hone this even further to get where I am now. When I was in my mid-30s, that ex that I referred to in my last video that I was going to call to help me change a tire, but he was sleeping and then I had to do it myself and blah, blah. I had just gotten out of a very long relationship with that person. It was really difficult because that was a good relationship. We're still friends and financial partners to this day. But so, I was looking back at what were the problems in this relationship that I brought and what do I want in my future relationship? Those were the two questions I asked myself. What were the problems in this last relationship? And how was I a party to that? Because I want to change that. I don't want this problem again, so I need to be different. And then what is the ideal relationship I want? And how do I need to be different for that? How do I need to be different to fit into that picture? And so there was one big thing for both of them, and it was that I was overweight. I weighed 190, and I was not at all happy with that. This is a lifelong thing for me, dealing with my feelings about weight, even though I was only overweight to the degree of being 190. I'm 5'3", for like 10 years. I was never like a fat person, but until then. And that was the big deal for me. I felt like, my weight affects how I feel about myself and how I feel about being a desirable partner. So I stayed in this relationship longer than I would have. I probably got into it when I wouldn't have because of this. I definitely tolerated problems that were happening in this relationship way longer than I would have otherwise. And, also in the ideal relationship that I thought I wanted in my mind, was one that was like very socially active. This was very misguided on my part. I'll get to that in a second. But I really thought that what I wanted was to be in a relationship with somebody where we had a huge group of friends and we would go out all the time, and that basically our lives would be like more out than in. So more like out doing stuff than in being like a homebody. And so what I did was I changed my weight incrementally using manifestation, using, auto-suggestion, which I've never used that term before, but it's certainly what I did. Just constantly telling myself I could do it. That was a big one. That was the video I just made. I constantly told myself I'm capable, I can do this. I've done all this other stuff. There's no reason I can't do this. The idea that I can't do this was something I totally made up. I can totally do this, which I totally could and did. And I did it just a little bit at a time because as somebody who weighed 190, I really couldn't remember what it felt like to weigh 115. I didn't know what that would feel like to me. And so I just did it a little bit at a time. I could remember weighing 175, say. So I kind of just latched onto that and said, I can do this, and worked my way there. I had never been able to do that before. Like the idea that this did not involve manifestation is ridiculous. All of the things that go into manifestation were the reason I finally did this after like 20 years. I just incrementally went to the next place. It was close enough. Each step was close enough that it didn't seem overly like too much change to process at once. And I could vaguely remember, I had clothes still from the time that I had previously weighed like 145. Clothes, the clothes I loved the best I kept. So I was like, I know I'm going to be able to fit into those. I got, jazzed about that. And I could remember what it felt like wearing those. I just sort of like connected to who I was at the one step at a time. And then when I started to really get into weights I had never really been at before, that was when it was just sort of like the great unknown. And I really relied on you can do it for those. It wasn't so much that I can connect to what this feels like. I just sort of became a different person as it happened, and just sort of went one step at a time with that. But so once I achieved that goal, once I was where I wanted to be, then I was like, okay, it's time to get the relationship I want. And I thought I wanted this super social relationship, and I absolutely manifested it. It was absolutely a manifestation. I knew what I wanted. I wasn't focusing on that exactly. I didn't make it a requirement that this thing happen, but I knew what I wanted, and that's exactly what showed up. And interestingly, for much of the time I was getting to know this person, it was not at all clear to me that he was the other member of that picture in my mind, the social picture. When I figured out just how social he was, I was pretty shocked, because he kind of seemed like a homebody to me when we first were talking. And what ended up happening was I got that exact scene in my mind, just sort of the two of us out with all these people around, and it was that, like, constantly. It was constant socializing. It was exhausting. The first time that I met this guy's friends, it was like the scene from Goodfellas. If you haven't seen Goodfellas, you should really watch it. But in the beginning of Goodfellas, when one of the mobsters is young and he's just like becoming a mobster, they're showing it from the perspective of the woman who later becomes his wife. And they're just showing them like whirling around this. Everybody knows him. He's getting all the preferential treatment. He's like going through the kitchen to get to the table that's right in front of the stage, where everybody else has to, wait in line. And he's like the VIP, and everyone knows him. This is what it was like with this guy I was dating. Everywhere we went, everyone knew him. In every restaurant and bar we went to, it was bizarre. I immediately thought of the Goodfellas thing. And I was just like, I do not belong in this scene. What was I thinking? This isn't me. This was just an idea I had in my head about what, it should be like. This isn't me. I don't want this. I want to go home and lay on the couch. I want to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and go to the gym. Like, here I am. I want to get up and go to the gym. I don't want to be out till 3 a.m. because I want to get up at 5 and go to the gym and take care of myself. I need my alone time. I would prefer to be in a relationship with somebody where it's more intimate. Like, the constant socializing really prevented us, I think, from getting sort of close to each other. It was just, there were too many other people involved in everything. And so I just realized this isn't for me. And there's, no harm, no foul with if you manifest something in your life that you thought you wanted and it turns out that you didn't. But, that's not something that has to happen. You can whittle it all down to what you actually want just by being honest with yourself about who you are, which I finally did after that. I finally just said, okay, I need to just accept that I'm not that party girl. I'm never going to be. And I don't need to be, like, that's not something I need to be in order to be good enough. I come from kind of a family that's like that, where the men are kind of like that. And so I always felt like I needed to fit in with that and didn't like it that I kind of don't. I just finally, accepted that about myself. Just finally said, hey, it's okay that I'm not like that. There's a lot of upside to not being like that. So, yeah. So eventually I just whittled it down to what do I actually need? What do I actually need from a relationship? And then once I knew what that would feel like, I kind of just instantly sort of snapped into what that would feel like. What would it feel like to be with my husband? Like somebody with whom it actually works for me, how I really am. And I felt what that would feel like, and he showed up almost immediately. So, and I have him to this day. So anyway, I don't know. I hope that helped somebody. I hope that my blabbering about what I've been through with this stuff and trying to explain what it means and where other people, I think, who are not speaking from experience are getting this off a little bit. I hope that helped somebody with something. That's it. I'm going to end this here. Have a great day.